church here in Fort Dodge. A Creston man found guilty of beating his girlfriend to death with a hammer has died in prison. Radio Iowa's Dar Danielson with more.
The Iowa Department of Corrections says 72-year-old Rick Bird died of natural causes Wednesday. Bird was found guilty of first-degree murder in Union County in the death of 47-year-old Linda Trenkel in February of 1997. Bird claimed that Trenkel came at him with a table leg and hammer during an argument, but prosecutors said Bird hit Trenkel in the head several times with a drywall hammer after she slapped him. Bird started serving his life sentence on October 24th of 1997. Radio Iowa, I'm Dar Danielson.
A house on 7th Avenue South here in Fort Dodge was damaged heavily by a fire yesterday evening. There were no injuries from the fire. The report of the fire came in just after 5 p.m. after neighbors saw smoke coming from the house. Firefighters arrived on scene and were able to get the fire under control. Fort Dodge Fire Chief Steve Hergenreiter said the living room and kitchen areas were gutted from heavy damages from the fire, and the remainder of the house suffered smoke and heat damage. The people who are renting the house were in the process of moving out and were not in the home at the time of the fire. Fire and police personnel were on the scene for around an hour. In sports, high school basketball back on the agenda after the holiday hiatus. Join Greg Woods on the call on Sunny 99.7 as the St. Edmund Gales are back in action at home hosting Humboldt. A 6 p.m. scheduled start for the girls' pregame show with the boys to follow. On 92 Rock, the Fort Dodge Dodgers are in action on the road at Southeast Polk. The Dodger girls are riding a 2-game win streak, coming off victories over Des Moines Hoover and Marshalltown, but they face quite possibly their toughest test of the season, taking on a second-ranked Southeast Polk team who's unbeaten. Southeast Polk is led by junior Grace Larkins, who averages 24 points a game. The Dodger boys looking to get back in the win column for the first time since the season opener on December 2nd against Indianola. Dodger boys coach Tom Daniel says the message to his team over the holidays has been there's a lot of season left and a lot left to play for.
And so that's what you have to do when your back's against the wall. You've got to really see who's willing to stand up and take advantage of those opportunities and fight through it.
Tonight's game, a 6 p.m. scheduled start time for the girls' pregame show with the boys to follow. Both of those games available online at yourfortdodge.com. That's your Alpha Media News Update from the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom. I'm Rob Jones.
Here's the AM 1400 KVFD weatherology forecast. A winter weather advisory continues until 9 p.m. tonight. Mixed precipitation likely this afternoon, otherwise cloudy. Highs around 35, winds out of the west 10 to 15 miles per hour. Snow likely tonight, 21, cloudy, 33 tomorrow. 1 to 2 inches of snow today through tonight. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Currently, it's 34.
I got serious about staying fit just a couple of years ago. Now 5Ks, yoga, and smart nutrition are all part of my weekly routine. Part of my eating right plan? Country Hearth Breads. Natural breads with the whole grains and natural ingredients my body needs to perform at its best. Just a slice of toasted multigrain with peanut butter before a workout, and I'm ready to roll. Country Hearth is the easy choice because it's good for me and great tasting too. Country Hearth Breads, baking our best for you.
A lot of ads for sales jobs are sugar-coated with all of the money you could potentially make. In reality, you'll make as much as you want to, depending on the effort you put into the job. I'm Chris Ball, Director of Sales at Alpha Media. Alpha Media is looking for a few good people to represent us while helping local businesses develop a successful marketing plan on our 7 radio stations. Experience is preferred, but we'll work with candidates who have a great attitude and want to succeed. For an interview, call me at 955-5656. Alpha Media is an equal opportunity employer.
Assistant Majority Leader of the Iowa House of Representatives, Mike Sexton, and some really unimportant guys
that are stupid.
On AM 1400 KVFD.
Well, we're going to have to change that. No more Assistant Majority Leader for Sexton. That's kind of far down on, the list now, because he's uptown. He's the whip. Look the hell out. Whip in the house.
Majority whip. Did you play that assistant leader?
Yes, I
intro?
did. The assistant majority.
You're going to have to do a big old.
Oh yeah,
big old whip. Gonna have to get a new one here.
I've been, as everybody, I've been kind of derailed by the holidays here the last couple of weeks. I got a lot of things I got to straighten out too and catch up on, and that's certainly One of them we already have. You haven't been here 2 minutes. We got a phone call. Good afternoon. You're on the air with Representative Sexton at KVFD.
I'm just kind of curious, what are we going to see as far as legislation next year? I'll hang up and listen.
Yeah, that was a question I was going to ask, so let's go with that. What kind of legislation are we looking at, Mike?
Well, the I will. That's the conservation. That's the sales tax increase. The first 3/8 of a cent goes to conservation. It goes to state parks, conservations, trails. So I guess the Senate is really working on that right now, trying to get something. We'll probably raise this, and I'll be right up front right now saying I don't know that I'm going to support it. I don't know. I'm going to tell you what I know about it so far is it will probably raise the sales tax a penny. The first 3/8 of a cent will go to conservation, the I will stuff, which, like what I said, trails and parks and all that kind of stuff. Not very much of it goes to water quality. So that formula is written into the Iowa Code. So probably the first thing that'll happen is we're going to change the formula so that more of that 3/8 of a cent goes to water quality than to parks and trails and some of those things. Now, I know there's some folks out there that are going to get upset by that, but that's one of the things that they're talking about. Now, that other 5/8 of a cent that's left is what they're trying to do, I think, that's going to go to mental health and have the state fund mental health and take it off the back of property taxpayers that are paying for it at the county level. That's a really high 30,000-foot view of that I will. It's a lot more complicated than that, but that's that piece. The next piece is, during the interim, what we heard a lot about, which I know is happening in Fort Dodge, is child care. We have a very diminished small workforce, and single moms, and even married families, that one of them probably has to stay home and watch the kids because there's no child care. There's just, in our small, well, they call them child care deserts, where we don't have any place to go. And so these people could easily get jobs, be a part of the workforce, but yet they don't have any place. They don't have a place for the children. So then, but you've got people that say, well, why should we pay for that when having one of the parents stay home with kids is probably what we should be doing? That's why we wouldn't have so many problems today. So,
I understand that. I'm proud of my son and his wife. She's a nurse. She has a bachelor's degree in nursing. And they made the decision, since they have 3 little ones at home, that she stay home and raise the children, which I'm proud of them.
And the other thing is what they call the Clift effect. Right now people can get subsidized for the government for child care. And one of the things that happens when you get a few more hours or you get a pay increase, you go over this number, whatever that magical number is, and your subsidy just immediately goes away. It's just gone. And so what we want to try to do is come up with some type of a ratchet formula where if you get a pay, you get a raise, or you get more hours, you make a little more money, that you'll slowly lose your child care subsidy. You won't lose. Are you okay, buddy?
Yes, I am.
You won't lose the entire thing. So, which helps the workforce once again, realizing we have such a workforce shortage in the state of Iowa and the entire Midwest. The other thing that we hear a lot about is affordable housing in our rural communities, and I think that's also in Fort Dodge, even though Fort Dodge is a little bigger than a rural community, but we still have a housing shortage for that middle income family. We don't have any affordable housing. For either have really expensive houses or houses that are
my neighborhood.
hardly livable. So, we're going to try to come up with and what those things look like, folks. I don't know. I'm just telling you that when we had caucus, those are some of the things, some of those social issues that we heard that the citizens would like us to try to address. So.
And I know as a Republican, and I'm not trying to put this on you necessarily, on the Republican Party, but you believe the private sector works. And you're hesitant to get involved like child care deserts or food deserts. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more because we did in the last segment with the closing of some grocery stores in Rockwell City. And I'm really sorry to hear that. They used to have a couple of good grocery stores.
Yeah, we used to have two.
Yeah, Clark's and
then the Super Value.
Yeah, and the Super Value. I worked over there 5 years when Carver still had the car dealership over there. I liked I got along fine. I liked Rockwell City. But anyway, I'm as somebody who grew up in a small town, I'd like to see the small town life in rural Iowa continue. So I don't know. I guess the point I'm getting to here is what kind of role can government, at least at the state level, have in trying to address some of these problems? Child care, food deserts. There are some real problems out there.
There are some real problems and like I said, the child care one I think is to try to get rid of the cliff effect. That's very damaging. So if we can come up with some formula to fix that, I think we fix that. And then you and I talked just briefly, this grocery store issue. Do we come up with a tax credit or some type of some tax thing that will help a young entrepreneur keep a grocery store open in, does it have to be a town less than 5,000? We have the ability to do those things legislatively,
right?
In order to keep a grocery store open in our small rural towns. Now you'll like my stance on this issue. Is the Calhoun County Courthouse has a terrible time with internet and phone service being brought to them by either Windstream or Mediacom,
right.
your favorite.
What a surprise!
And so there's some real issues they have there with service, which is frustrating to me. And so I think I'm going to introduce a bill that will allow them to be able to use the ICN. The ICN already comes to the courthouse because the sheriff's department and certain departments already get to use the ICN in our courthouses. But the auditor, the treasurer, those other offices in the courthouse are not, because of Iowa code, cannot use them. Well, why
is that in the Iowa code?
Well, it's in the Iowa code, buddy. Don't ask me.
All you're going to tell me.
But I think probably because we didn't want to compete. The Republicans' viewpoint of we didn't want to compete against private business.
That's kind of what I thought. Yeah.
And that's what I would assume. But I think you sometimes get a little carried away. But I will.
Now you sound like Matt Bemrick.
I will be a little bit on your side because Becky has Windstream as a client or as a provider.
Oh, this is a reason for your defense. Right.
And we have times where, internet and phone service are bad. And I know Mediacom has had issues. So if they can't step up to the plate and provide a reliable service, Mike, then me as a legislator am forced to look at options for my constituents.
Yes.
And my constituent is the Calhoun County Courthouse. And if I have to push legislation that says a government entity is going to be the provider for phone and internet service to the county, well, then I'm going to do that. And maybe that will push the providers to say, well, maybe we ought to pay attention to what we're doing in these small rural communities. Because I am frustrated beyond words, and I've talked about it on your show before, what Mediacom is doing to our small rural communities, which they're doing to Fort Dodge.
Yeah.
It's just like when I was on the school board, and we still had Lytton, had the old school there in Lytton. and it needed new windows, and it needed some point tucking, and it needed some things. And I made a comment like, well, we're probably going to close that in a few years or something. And one of the board members, Mike, said, Mike, that doesn't matter. If you have it today, you need to take care of it.
Yeah.
And that's how I look at Mediacom and Windstream in these communities. Maybe you think you're going to sell it someday. I don't know, but you have it today. You better damn well take care of it and take care of the people that are paying their bill.
Yeah.
Because that's frustrating to me. And I get a lot of complaints from my rural communities about that very issue.
Well, because it's a huge problem. I mean, most people, they're not going to care about the Democrats impeaching Donald Trump, frankly. But if you give them, and I learned this years and years ago in marketing class, what people care for is heart, home, and pocketbook. What affects their heart, usually their family. Home, the same thing. This is my home. This is my sanctuary. And pocketbook. We care about getting our value for the money that we spend. We worked hard to get it. We give it to Mediacom or somebody like that, and we don't get the service we're promised. And that's why we get crazy at politicians sometimes.
Oh, I know. I understand. And I don't blame people.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you're exactly right. I'd like to, if I sent out a survey, I'd rank these things as important to you. Having a grocery store in your community.
There you go.
Having a reliable internet and phone service, or the impeachment of the president. You and I both know how those are going to rank.
Oh, yeah.
So
I mean, it's ridiculous. It's like the news people on major networks are in another reality. I'm over here. I'm worrying about my streets being plowed in the winter and all these other things in Mediacom, which I've had a long running struggle with. I'm on my third tech this week over at my house.
Did I sent you an email with the guy's name? Did you call him, or did I sent you an we got an email from Mediacom because they knew all this stuff was going on part of our district. Right. And this guy sent, and it was probably 2 months ago, Mike.
Yeah. Well,
that I sent you an email with a guy's name that said they're going to roll out this super spectacular service and all that. So I sent that to you to see if he'd be on your show, but.
Well,
So I don't know where it don't make any difference.
Yeah, but I can look it up later. I rarely get rid of my emails, but I should just let this go. But I've been around the horn so many times with Mediacom, I just don't want to hear it anymore. Yeah. I just don't want to hear it. We had that just before the not the election, but before the vote on whether we should seek our own broadband. There was a meeting out at the Friendship Haven in the Celebration Room. And there were representatives of Mediacom there. And the way they talked about their service and what they're doing for their customers was not within my reality at all. And it wasn't in the reality of several other people, obviously, because we voted 71% to get our own broadband.
And that's higher than I thought. I was surprised. That's higher than I thought it would be.
I knew it would pass. I know. Chip Baltimore was in the studio.
I listened to that.
Did you?
Yep.
Chip's okay. We exchanged business cards. But he's just an advocate. He was just a hired gun by Mediacom. And he kept denying it.
Yeah.
You know Chip.
Yeah, no, well, I served with Chip until he got in trouble. But
what was it, just the drunk driving thing? I think
that
was.
Well, drunk driving, and he had a gun underneath his seat.
Whoops, yeah.
And so when you have a concealed carry permit, which is null and void if you're drinking when you have the firearm. And so
didn't know that.
Yeah, so he.
Well, Chip had his nose in the casino business, too. We were really hoping for a casino here in Fort Dodge, and he jumped on with the wrong people, and he worked to get the casino in Jefferson. Now, Jefferson's had it for a few years, but Chip was part of that, Chip
that makes sense because that had been his district.
Yeah, it was.
That had been his, so I can see why he would have tried to do that.
But the way he described it, and he even talked to me about it on the air, like, this is a wonderfully brave thing the Racing and Gaming Commission has done. I just, again, I like the guy, but I just want to say, Chip, shut the hell up.
He was a very good. I would not have wanted to challenge him on the floor. He was very quick. He's very intelligent and very quick on the floor, and he could. I've witnessed him tie up Democrats on the House floor, and they were speechless.
Well, because he had the facts on his side, and he was ready to present them.
Well, that's his, and he's an attorney.
Yeah,
he's a lawyer, and he's practicing, and he's. So anyway, but so But where is that at? I mean, has anything happened on the vote issue? I mean, now that people said
again,
yes.
I had the mayor in here yesterday, and I said, I was complaining about MediaCom again, and I asked the mayor if we're going to move forward, and he said, yeah, we're going to move forward, and it sounds like this will be a very deliberate process, and they'll be seeking partners because I don't suppose the city wants to commit too many funds.
I would hope that is what they would do. I would think. To me, it just seems like, man, it's going to be a lot of money.
It's going to be a lot of money, but from the beginning, the city manager Furyk and Mayor Bemrick talked about seeking partners. Partnership, private-public partnership. That's what they wanted to do. I called Marcy Borner in here from Gowrie. You know Marcy; she's a great girl.
Yep.
And very smart. And she talked about the Wi-Fi effort in her area. And the results of that effort, and Christ, they got great service down there.
Well, every place Webster Calhoun is,
or
whatever Webster Calhoun. Why can't they come to Fort Dodge?
They don't want to. They're milking us to. They never said this, but their business plan is obviously milking us until we rise up and say enough. And I hope we've done that. As a matter of fact, I'm not in favor of having MediaCom part of our public partnership, public-private partnership, but that's really not my call.
Yeah.
I don't think MediaCom has served our area well at all.
So we're trying to get them to Rockwell City.
You're trying to get MediaCom to Rockwell City?
No, we're trying to get Webster Calhoun to Rockwell City.
Webster Calhoun. What do you got now?
We got Windstream and MediaCom.
Windstream and MediaCom.
And there's a huge push to get Webster Calhoun that.
Yeah, back in the 90s, MediaCom was trying for a state franchise. They got it. But you ought to go back 20 years ago and see some of the personalities involved in that discussion and how MediaCom got this franchise agreement. Because I was a little surprised that, again, Republicans, who are always leery of government spending, and they certainly don't want to put private business owners out of business, which I understand and support, but some of them were bent by they were persuaded. Let me put it that way. So
we'd be so much better off if we had 1,000 little telcos across the state of Iowa.
Absolutely.
Instead of one big conglomerate or two big conglomerates.
Yeah.
We'd be way better off. We'd have new fiber, and it would just be a completely different. So yeah, I think maybe that was a mistake made way back whenever they made it. So.
Yeah. Oh yeah. MediaCom is like other businesses. If that idea that you just talked about took root here in Iowa, pretty soon it'll be all over the place, and that's going to cost them money, and they don't want that.
Yeah, well,
so they're going to fight it. And I don't suppose Chip worked for nothing either. I'm pretty sure he didn't. Mike Sexton's our guest.
Michael Devine, the Doctor of Truth.
Does anyone have anything they'd like to confess?
That AM 1400 KVFD.
Okay, it's exactly 3:30. We're going to do the news next, and we'll be back with Representative Mike Sexton. So if you have a question or comment for the Scrapster, it's 515-955-1400. Yeah, he wasn't in the studio. Just right after 3 o'clock, we went on the air, and he already had a phone call. I thought, that's a record. News is next.
Ride the bus with the Dart and Midas transits.
To get around town this winter in the sunshine or the snow, it's easiest with just a phone call to DART. They'll take you around Fort Dodge, to the hospital, the college, downtown, and to the mall. Wherever you're going in Fort Dodge, DART will get you there. Call 800-BUS-RIDE. Put their number in your phone now. 800-BUS-RIDE. DART, your Jefferson Lines connection, helping you get where you need to go this winter.
Our job here's getting you there. Ride the bus.
What's in store this week at your local Staples?
It's time to start fresh with a nice, clean calendar.
Time flies when you have a million things to keep track of.
Which is why there's no better time than now to get organized with help from Staples.
Staples has the organizational products you need at great prices every day.
And right now, 2020 desk pad calendars are just $3.99 each.
So make time to save on all your office essentials at Staples.
Where there's a whole lot more in store.
In store only, ends 1/4/20.
With your KVFD news update, I'm Rob Jones. The Fort Dodge Police Department has issued a statement regarding the investigation to the death last night on the 100 block of Avenue D. Around 10:20 last night, dispatch received a call of a possible physical assault between a male and female. Officers arrived on scene and found a male unresponsive in a grassy area outside the residence. Officers began administering medical treatment, but the male was pronounced dead at the scene. After investigating the incident, officers determined it was likely that the male had been ran over by a vehicle. The Iowa State Patrol was called in to assist in the investigation. Police are still working to determine the exact circumstances that led to the death. Currently, no charges have been filed stemming from the incident. The identity of the male has not been released as of yet, as family members are still being properly notified. Anyone with information on the incident is asked to contact the Fort Dodge Police Department. A man accused of committing a murder here in Fort Dodge in October was granted a competency hearing. 36-year-old Fort Dodge resident Joshua Pendleton, who is accused of the murder of Reverend Al Henderson, will undergo evaluation at the Iowa Medical and Classification Center in Oakdale to determine whether he is mentally competent. The hearing is scheduled for January 10th, and the court plans to rule on whether the claim of mental incompetency has enough probable cause to suspend the criminal proceedings. Pendleton is facing charges of first-degree murder and first-degree robbery after police say he killed Reverend Henderson October 2nd outside of the St. Paul Lutheran Church here in Fort Dodge. A house on 7th Avenue South here in Fort Dodge was damaged heavily by a fire yesterday evening. There were no injuries from the fire. The report of the fire came in just after 5 p.m. after neighbors saw smoke coming from the house. Firefighters arrived on scene and were able to get the fire under control. Fort Dodge Fire Chief Steve Hergenreiter said the living room and kitchen areas were gutted from heavy damages from the fire, and the remainder of the house suffered smoke and heat damage. The people who are renting the house were in the process of moving out and were not in the home at the time of the fire. Fire and police personnel were on the scene for around an hour. For KVFD from the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom, I'm Rob Jones.
Here's the AM 1400 KVFD weatherology forecast. A winter weather advisory continues until 9 p.m. tonight. Mixed precipitation likely this afternoon, otherwise cloudy. Highs around 35, winds out of the west 10 to 15 miles per hour. Snow likely tonight, 21, cloudy, 33 tomorrow. 1 to 2 inches of snow today through tonight. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Currently, it's 34.
Here's a look at how the markets closed today. March corn down a nickel to close at 386.5. May down a nickel at 393. July down 4 3/4 at 399.25. September down 4 3/4 at 398.25. January soybeans down 13 3/4 at 930.5. March down 14 3/4 at 941.5. May down 14 1/4 at 955.25. July down 13 1/4 cents at 967 3/4. March wheat down 5 3/4 at 554.5. Soybean meal down 450 a ton at 296.10. February live cattle down 105 at 124.72. April down 80 cents at 125.67. January feeder cattle down 130 at 143.35. March down 105 at 142.67. February lean hogs down $3 at 68.55. April down 285 at 75.15. I'm Dwayne Murley.
With each new year come ads for new food trends and fad diets. Resist until you know more. I'm Julie Harker with Healthy Living on Brownfield. Seemingly healthy foods like fruits and vegetables only remain healthy when eaten in moderation. It's possible to way overdo with good-for-you foods. Amanda Barnes is a dietitian.
I had someone the other day that was eating over 2 pounds a day of avocados and of carrots and wondering why they weren't losing weight. But still, watching your portions is always important when you're watching your weight.
It's important to keep a balanced diet with a combination of fruits, vegetables, protein, grains, dairy, legumes, and more. Penny Chris Etherton with Penn State University says people shouldn't run out and stock up on individual foods when articles or studies come out claiming the health benefits of a single food item.
As we hear about individual foods and their health benefits,
it's always important to think of them in the context of a healthy dietary pattern.
The USDA recommends half a person's plate should consist of fruits and vegetables, and the other half should be made up of grains and protein. They also recommend accompanying each meal with a serving of low-fat dairy. As with many foods, moderation and variety will help in a balanced diet. Karen Ensley with Rutgers Extension sums it up.
The most important thing for consumers to do is really take a look at the balance in their diet.
Here's to a healthy 2020. I'm Julie Harker with Healthy Living on Brownfield.
Farmers can't choose the weather, trade policy, or market prices, but they can choose the most advanced dicamba with confidence. Ingenia herbicide has the lowest volatility of all dicamba salts for more successful on-target applications, and it's straight from the dicamba experts, BASF. So make the confident choice for your soybean crop. Talk to your BASF rep or authorized retailer. Ingenia herbicide is a U.S. EPA restricted use pesticide. Additional state restrictions may apply. Always read and follow label directions.
Nice turn, Jill.
Thanks. By the way, Dad, have you ever smoked marijuana? It's getting legalized everywhere, so it's okay to do now, right?
It's not legal everywhere, and it's not legal for teens at all. It can cause permanent damage to teens' developing brains, and it often leads to other drugs.
This conversation can happen anywhere, and your kids need to know the facts. 76% of teens agree that with legalization, teens may be more likely to experiment with marijuana. Now's the time to talk to your kids about substance use. Learn more at rosecrans.org.
Michael Devine, the mayor of Manville.
It's a fancy title for a part-time job.
Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD.
That's right, I'm the Doctor of Truth, of course, and that's not hyperbole, by the way. AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. I'm Michael Devine, and I'm here, yes, I'm here, ladies and gentlemen. Big-time star power today. I'm here with the House whip, Republican whip, and he is Mike Sexton, of course. How you doing there, Mike?
Doing good, Mike.
All right, man. So, I wanted to touch on this with you, a couple of things, and I'm going to get to Mayor Bemrick here I might as well do Mayor Bemrick now.
Oh, you're going to get me in trouble with the mayor?
No, I'm going to get myself in trouble with the mayor. I love the mayor. I think he's a great guy. I think he's done a lot for Fort Dodge. I think he's, in my time in Fort Dodge, he's been the best mayor that we've had by far as I'm concerned. But I put it to him, and he thought I was unfair. We have parking ticket money. We charge people for overtime parking, and all that money goes to a parking lot fund right next to the Wells Fargo Bank down here to maintain that parking lot. And I have suggested off and on for years that we take that parking lot money, and if we're really serious about making a gesture toward hunger around Christmas time, that we should take that money and give it to the food pantry or people who are responsible and will be responsible enough to get it to the people who need it. Well, the mayor got all over me. He accused me of twisting things and being unfair, but I don't really think I was. I think you have a pretty stark choice here. You have the parking lot fund. You want to keep this parking lot up to snuff. I understand that, but you also have this responsibility over here. And the mayor he's mostly Democratic because he came out in favor of Mayor Pete, as you know.
Mm-hmm.
But he is very careful with a dollar. He's still got that businessman's thing going on there. So I don't know what is pushing him in this direction. But I think he's wrong, frankly. So I'm going to throw that choice to you there, Representative Sexton. You have a food pantry or you have, say, a parking lot. And this is just hypothetical. You have nothing to do with the inner workings of Fort Dodge, Iowa. But I'll put that to you that way. What would you do in this hypothetical situation?
Well, let's expand that. I mean, we have food pantries all over House District 10. So we have one in Rockwell City. Mm-hmm. They have one in Manson. And so we have those things in our communities. It's back to the age-old question, Mike. That is, there's two groups of people that can benefit from that. One is a group of people that they lost their job, some kind of circumstances,
or they're elderly,
or they're hardworking people, and I don't think there's not one of us that wouldn't want to help those people. The other part of that group are people that you've talked about on the radio that are sitting on the porches in the summertime, smoking dope, and haven't worked, and they've gamed the system their whole life, Mike.
That's true.
I don't think that it's my responsibility to take care of those people. If they are able-bodied human beings and they can get out and get a job and work hard like I do every day, you do every day, and my other constituents, I don't know that we're obligated to take care of those people.
I would agree with you, of course.
And so the problem is, Mike, how do you, when it comes to a food pantry or it comes to subsidized SNAP, these programs, how do we separate those two groups? And we've struggled with that as long as I've been a part of politics.
Well, Congressman King, the last couple times I talked with him, said that at the federal level, they have disallowed young men, healthy men, from food stamps between a certain age group. I got no problem with it. If you're a healthy young man, get a job. Young women with children at home, I'm going to tell you two stories. I've seen young women struggling that way with children at home, and it's pathetic and sad. They're doing the best they can, I know, and I think we should be doing more for them. I've also seen young women addicted to drugs or alcohol selling those food stamps for 50 cents on a dollar, and they got their little kids, I mean little kids, 3-4 years old with them, and they look malnourished and unhappy and crying. It is a crying shame. So I don't know the perfect answer. I just know that we can't punish the little kids because their mother or father or both are idiots. And I also agree, and I also understand that perhaps too much attention has been paid to that anger that we all feel about being taken advantage of by bums.
Yeah.
We should focus on those people, my parents' generation, who are in their 80s and 90s, who cannot work. They can't work. My mom can't work now. She doesn't need food stamps, but there's plenty of those people out there who we do have, I believe, a moral obligation to help. So do you feel a moral obligation? What sort of moral obligation do you feel?
Well, I do feel a moral obligation, Mike. In fact, I will tell you that Becky and I, we give stuff to the outreach in Rockwell City all the time. Our church collects things. We bring things to church every Sunday. We hold up our little grocery sack full of, the things they request. They put in the bulletin. These are we need peanut butter, toothpaste. They do that all the time. So we do that. And I think, especially with this grocery store, Becky and I, situation in Rockwell City, I have an elderly aunt that's in Sunnyview in Rockwell City, and there's a whole population of people there that can't drive. They're stuck there without if they can drive, they can't leave the community. That one of those kind of deals. So are we obligated to take care? Maybe at the very least, it's to help them get their groceries. Maybe not even buy them, but at least go pick them up for them. There's, and that's the thing, Mike. There's a lot of things we can do as citizens to help these people besides give them a handout. And honestly, I truly believe most of them don't want a handout because I don't think they'd want it. But if you offered to go pick them up some groceries, they said, "Here's $5. I need a half a gallon of milk and I need some butter," and those are the kind of things I think that we need to be doing.
Yeah. I agree with that.
But when I was in the Senate 20 years ago, they must have been from the census that occurred in 2000. They did a story. Calhoun County was the oldest, the oldest population of people still living in their homes in the entire country. And I'd almost bet that it's not much different right now. And so I represent, a district that is full of retired farmers, people that have paid their dues, worked hard their entire life, and they're still living in their own homes. And a lot of those people, Mike, I know are struggling. They're struggling with prescription drugs. I don't have the answer for that, but I know they're, the high cost of prescription drugs, having somebody come in and help them do the bare essentials for them. And one of that goes back to like our health services don't have enough people to take care of them. I mean, we got a worker shortage in the state of Iowa. So I guess my answer to you, Mike, is I guess I agree a little bit with Mayor Bemrick to say I don't know that you need to raid the parking lot fund when I think there's a lot of things that you and I as citizens could be doing instead of just raiding that fund and writing them a check or doing something.
Well, Matt always wants to have the people of Fort Dodge who are concerned about this, and he looks at me directly, come up with a plan, and then maybe the city council and he would approve it. That's not very good to me. We pay them to do something.
I don't think you should have a plan. I think as Christians, as those of us that are Christians and live in these communities, you should already have a plan, Mike, and it ought to be in your heart, and you shouldn't have to have Mayor Bemrick or the Fort Dodge City Council or the Rockwell City Council say, you know what, we need to have a plan to take care of that. We should as citizens and Christians should already be doing it. And I don't know where somewhere we've got away from doing that.
I know we have surrendered too much of our personal authority to authority figures as far as I'm concerned. We hire a representative or a state senator or a governor or a mayor. Okay, here's the problem. You guys do it. I understand.
Yeah, well, and I think, Mike, you've said, here's our tax money. You fix the problem.
Yeah.
I'm the guy I'd feel a lot better if I said, you know what, you keep some of your tax money and you take care of the problem.
Well,
and not give it to me to try to figure out, because I'll tell you, Mike, you know the people in Fort Dodge. I know the people in Rockwell City that need that money. And I know the people that are the bums because I live. Well, no, isn't that true?
That is true.
We live there with them. We know who these people are, and we know the people that need some extra attention. The state of Iowa, the federal government, all they know is the Social Security number. They don't know who those people are.
No, they don't.
And that's the when you want the government to take care of you, you're going down the wrong road.
You're going down the wrong. And I may surprise some people when I say this, but I don't believe in keeping anybody's 90-year-old grandmother on life support indefinitely. The charges that run up from that are ridiculous.
No.
And I know that's a difficult decision. There's been cases where some person in their 80s or 90s has been unconscious for months and even years, and the bill to the hospital that the government's paying is huge.
Well, Mike, when Becky and I were working at on our retirement several years ago, trying to get that set up so we can maybe retire someday, our agent said that, and I know I'm not going to get this right, but there's people out there that'll know it, that like 80% of your health care costs will be spent in the last 8 months of your life.
Oh, I'm sure.
And so that's huge.
Well, that's what I was putting a lot of money in my health savings account, but you heard I might be in trouble for doing that.
Yeah.
I was saving that for old age, and I'm in old age, I guess.
But don't you have to have yours spent every year?
I don't know. Not under this particular time, no.
Oh, see that? What Becky and I have is we put so much in, each pay period, but then I have to have that spent by all the bills that occur in 19 now. I think I have until like April to make sure I get them filed.
Right.
But yeah,
I don't know. I mean, I've had boy, if you live long enough, you learn a lot of things, and I'm learning some new things today. I'll tell you. That's all. But I don't mean to put you on the spot. Democrats won't appear on this program. And their priorities are making sure that there's enough tax money, and they want to put us on the spot with a moral obligation over transgender surgery or some doggone thing. Because if you look at the big liberal and left-wing and Iowa Democratic Party websites, that's what they're talking about, and making accommodations for illegal workers and all of these things. Yeah. Now, if you put transgender surgery on a list and said, how important is this to you, to most Iowans, I'm pretty sure that would come up pretty low
Well, it'd be on in House District 10. It would be in House District 10, Mike. It would be on the bottom of the list. Now, I understand some parts of the state of Iowa, some of the Democratic city areas, it probably is up there, but
I suppose Iowa City. I suppose they're making sexual reassignment surgery mandatory. I don't know.
Yeah, it's
so. Who's the senator that covers Calhoun and Pocahontas County? That's not Kramer?
Yeah, that's Tim.
Is that Tim?
Yeah, Tim. So Tim's district is my district and Ann's district, Representative Meyer. Those two districts put together. So it takes two House districts to make a Senate district. So House District 10 is the rural part of his Senate district, and Representative Meyer's got the Fort Dodge urban part.
Right.
So 9 and 10 House districts go together to make. I'm not even sure what Tim's 5 is. It 5? I don't even know what Senate district it is.
Not important. We'll ask Tim next time he comes in.
Yeah, but anyway,
he's kind of turned into a Democrat on me. He won't appear either.
Well, like you and I talked, he's busy. I tell you what, in December, December turned in. You know, a lot of people will say, "Well, you guys got such a great job. You only have to work 4 months, you know, and then you get paid that big $25,000 a year." And I said, you know what, you ought to follow us around in December because it is 2 or 3 meetings a day, you know, up till about 5 days before Christmas. Just everybody wants to meet with you before you go down to Des Moines, you know, and we're going the 13th. We gavel in, we go back to work the 13th. So, but while I was sitting here thinking, Mike, I guess one of the things since being elected the whip is a lot of folks have said, Mike, what's the whip do? And so
I should ask that question, yes.
And so anyway, the whip is I've served right underneath the majority leader, who is Representative Winchittle, and that person is responsible for the legislation that's going to come onto the House floor. And so a lot of my job is taking care of the Republican caucus.
Right.
Making sure everybody's okay, making sure everybody's on board.
I like that whip name, though.
I like that whip name.
It kind of serves you for some reason.
It goes with the Scrapster. You give the Scrapster a whip, you're in trouble. But, you know, we have 53 members in the Republican House. And so it takes 51 to vote anything off. And so we will have partisan issues. Everybody knows that. And so we need 51 votes. It's my responsibility to know if we have that 51 votes. And when you have 53 people, somebody has a doctor's appointment, somebody is sick, you know, people are coming and going. So it's my responsibility to make sure we have 51 votes sitting on that House floor when the majority leader says, you know, Mike, we're going to vote on this bill today. Where are we at? And it's my responsibility to say, we have 51 votes, or Mr. Majority Leader, we don't have enough votes to do that today. We're going to have to, we can't run that today because somebody's sick and we'll have members that won't want to vote. I mean, we'll have members that'll say, Mike, I can't vote for that. And so then the whip's job is to say, okay, why can't you vote for that? Well, this piece right here. If we could change that piece, could you vote for it? Yeah, maybe I could. Well, then I've got to go back to the bill manager to say, you know, we can pick up another vote or we can pick up 2 votes if we change this. And so kind of in a very rough nutshell, that's what the whip does. So it's
who's the House Majority Leader this year? Is it still Linda?
No, the speaker now is Representative Grassley. So Pat Grassley.
That's right, he is, isn't he?
Yep. So Senator Grassley's grandson will be the speaker. Representative Matt Winchittle from the west side of Iowa. He will be the majority leader. John Wills, Representative Wills, will be the speaker pro temp, and I will be the whip.
Yeah, Matt Winchittle. He's anti-gun people don't want to get in an argument with him.
No, they do not. He is
because Matt is well versed in the history of gun possession in private people.
And Matt wanted to ran for the speaker. He was one of the names in the speaker, and he pulled out a few days in. You know, we campaigned for these amongst our our peers. That's how we run for these positions. And so, I called all 52 members and said, I'm going to run for the whip, and they'll say, well, what do you think about this? And so they kind of interview you for that position. One of the things the Representative Winchittle, and he and I had a conversation when all this settled, was that he believes his very, very strong pro-gun hurt him some, with our caucus. I mean, we're all pro-gun, but we're not. I'm with Representative Winchittle. I'm very pro-gun, but we've got some moderate. The Republican House has got a big tent, and so we've got some moderate Republicans that think, Representative's gun stuff went a little bit too far.
Well, he believes in open carry. He believes there's what is it called? What is it? The constitutional right to carry, or something. I mean, he believes it, as I do, as a matter of fact.
Yep.
But I don't know. Maybe there's some Republicans who live in districts where that's a problem, or maybe they disagree.
Well, they do. They live in districts where that's a problem, as well as our pro-life plank is kind of hard for some of our members that are in eastern Iowa.
Right. AM 1400 KVFD. Good afternoon. You're on the air with Representative Sexton.
I'm curious if, like, that shooting in Texas for the parishioner shot the attacker, would that be legal for us to do it in Iowa?
That's a good question.
Stand your ground law?
Did you get that question, Mike?
He broke up a little bit. I didn't.
The situation in Texas just a few days ago, where some nutcase came into a church, how horrible, and started to open fire, and a trained security officer, I believe a former police officer, stood up in the back of the church and killed him with one shot. And the question was, if that situation happened
covered
in
under
Iowa,
stand your ground.
Right.
It would take. I'm sure that will go to a jury, or if that, in Mike Sexton's opinion, that would easily qualify for stand your ground.
Man's a hero.
If somebody, I don't care if he came into a grocery store, a bank, a church, and he starts shooting, you have the right to defend yourself as well as those people around you.
Well, I mean, he killed two people just sitting in the pew at church.
Well, one of them was another person that was armed that was trained by this guy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think the second person shot was. That's what I understood, and I might be all wrong, but my opinion would be that stand your ground would cover that situation.
I would, that's an interesting.
And
scenario.
if we had to change, and so maybe the caller's even interested in this, if we had to change Iowa code to make that fit, I would support that.
Yeah. Oh, that is interesting. You ought to carry that down to the State House and see what they think of that, because I think it would make it easier for you to get protection for somebody like that, because there's real restrictions. I understand there should be on stand your ground, but in this case, that's justified. Mike, thanks for being here.
Yep, thank you, Mike.
It's 4 o'clock. You're listening to KVFD, Fort Dodge, Iowa.
Hi, this is Leslie Segretti.
And I'm Tom Kreitler, and you can hear the Money Pit every Saturday afternoon from 4 to 6 on the voice of Fort Dodge, AM 1400 KVFD, Fort Dodge.
This is a Fox News alert. President Trump says he's not starting a war. I'm Lisa Brady. In his first public remarks since the U.S. killed one of Iran's most powerful generals, the president says the U.S. took action to stop a war.
Under my leadership, America's policy is unambiguous to terrorists who harm or intend to harm any American. We will find you. We will eliminate you.
He says General Qasem Soleimani was plotting imminent attacks on American diplomats and military personnel. Soleimani was already blamed for hundreds of American deaths in Iraq and Afghanistan. But some Democrats are calling the president's decision a reckless escalation of hostilities, questioning whether he had the authority to launch the airstrike.
There have been a number of attempts in the last year or so to place new laws that would not allow the president to launch any military action against Iran without congressional approval. That never actually happened, though, didn't make it into law. The administration is arguing that the strike was necessary to save American lives from future attacks.
Fox's Mark Meredith. Some members of Congress have spoken with the U.S. Defense Chief, and a classified briefing is in the works. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo spending much of today on the phone with counterparts around the world.
The U.S.'s closest European allies have put out fairly general statements on this. This one's from the U.K.'s Foreign Secretary Dominic Raab. He says, quote, "We have always recognized the aggressive threat posed by the Iranian Quds Force led by Qasem Soleimani. Following his death, we urge all parties to de-escalate. Further conflict is in none of our interests."
Fox's Rich Edson at the State Department. Defense officials say nearly 3,000 more U.S. Army troops will deploy to Kuwait, joining hundreds sent earlier this week during attacks on the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad. America is listening to Fox News.
At Quicken Loans, our 17,000 team members know that home is so much more than a house. That's because our clients tell us all the time. Hey, this is Jay Farner, CEO of Quicken Loans, and we want to help you save money on your mortgage with some of the lowest refinancing rates ever. Rates are historically low. You may be able to reduce your rate and save money on your monthly mortgage payment right now. Pay off some credit card debt, or put some money towards that new bathroom or kitchen you've always wanted. The rate today on our 30-year fixed-rate mortgage is 3.99%. APR 4.23%. That's right, 3.99%. While we can't predict what will happen in the future, we do know that rates have dropped, and now is the time to save money on your mortgage. Call us today at 800-QUICKEN or go to rocketmortgage.com to learn how refinancing now may be the right mortgage solution for you. That's 800-QUICKEN or go to rocketmortgage.com.
Rates subject to change. Pay 2% fee to receive this discounted rate. Call for cost information and conditions. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLS number 3030.
The man accused of a machete attack during a house party in New York last weekend is now formally charged.
A grand jury in Rockland County, about 20 miles north of New York City, is indicting Grafton Thomas for the attempted killings of men stabbed inside the home of a prominent rabbi as they celebrated Hanukkah. Tom Walsh is the prosecutor.
Mr. Thomas has been charged with a violent and heinous crime, and I will ensure that my office continues the prosecution of Mr. Thomas to guarantee that justice is served.
Grafton is also facing federal hate crime charges for the same attack. The incident came following a week's worth of repeated violence aimed at Jews in the greater New York area. Eben Brown, Fox News.
A Navy SEAL, once charged with murder, is charting a new course.
Edward Gallagher, the Navy SEAL granted clemency by President Trump, rolling out a lifestyle brand. A 40-year-old collaborating with Nine Line and Black Rifle Coffee Company to introduce Salty Frog gear, a line which includes drinkware, hoodies, and T-shirts. In a statement, Gallagher says, brotherhood isn't just a statement, it's a way of life, adding, set the bar for brotherhood.
Fox's Kristen Goodwin, the special operations chief, was acquitted of murder charges last summer, but demoted after posing with the body of a dead ISIS fighter. President Trump restored his rank. A new proposal to resolve a long-standing dispute over gay marriage and gay clergy in the Methodist Church, as some members of the 13 million member denomination call for full inclusion of LGBTQ people. United Methodist Church leaders are proposing a new conservative denomination that would split from the rest of the church in what's described as an amicable separation, but nothing's definite yet. A specially called meeting last year failed to resolve the differences. A sell-off on Wall Street amid the rising tensions with Iran. The Dow dropped more than 230 points. I'm Lisa Brady. This is Fox News.
With your KVFD news update, I'm Rob Jones. The Fort Dodge Police Department has issued a statement regarding the investigation to the death last night on the 100 block of Avenue D. Around 10:20 last night, dispatch received a call of a possible physical assault between a male and female. Officers arrived on scene and found a male unresponsive in a grassy area outside the residence. Officers began administering medical treatment, but the male was pronounced dead at the scene. After investigating the incident, officers determined it was likely that the male had been ran over by a vehicle. The Iowa State Patrol was called in to assist in the investigation. Police are still working to determine the exact circumstances that led to the death. Currently, no charges have been filed stemming from the incident. The identity of the male has not been released as of yet, as family members are still being properly notified. Anyone with information on the incident is asked to contact the Fort Dodge Police Department. A man accused of committing a murder here in Fort Dodge in October was granted a competency hearing. 36-year-old Fort Dodge resident Joshua Pendleton, who is accused of the murder of Reverend Al Henderson, will undergo evaluation at the Iowa Medical and Classification Center in Oakdale to determine whether he is mentally competent. The hearing is scheduled for January 10th, and the court plans to rule on whether the claim of mental incompetency has enough probable cause to suspend the criminal proceedings. Pendleton is facing charges of first-degree murder and first-degree robbery after police say he killed Reverend Henderson October 2nd outside of the St. Paul Lutheran Church here in Fort Dodge. A house on 7th Avenue South here in Fort Dodge was damaged heavily by a fire yesterday evening. There were no injuries from the fire. The report of the fire came in just after 5 p.m. after neighbors saw smoke coming from the house. Firefighters arrived on scene and were able to get the fire under control. Fort Dodge Fire Chief Steve Hergenreiter said the living room and kitchen areas were gutted from heavy damages from the fire, and the remainder of the house suffered smoke and heat damage. The people who are renting the house were in the process of moving out and were not in the home at the time of the fire. Fire and police personnel were on the scene for around an hour. For KVFD from the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom, I'm Rob Jones.
Blue Ribbon, Pelham Waters, your water pro since 1949.
Do you have questions about your water? What is a whole home filter? Is my softener working or not? Can I get rid of that red stain around the sink? I'm Brian with Blue Ribbon Pelham Waters. We're here to fix problem water. We'll work with you to find the right solution for you. We've been serving the Fort Dodge area since 1949. Let us serve your water treatment needs. Sales, service, rentals. Blue Ribbon Pelham Waters, your complete water store.
Mom, Dad, I'm getting married.
That's wonderful, dear.
Congratulations. So have you decided on a date?
Yes, this Saturday.
What? Are you serious? We need to plan. There's so much to do.
What about the church? The flowers, music, food, inviting everyone?
You would not want to be faced with those hurried decisions then. Why do that to your family with your own final arrangements? I invite you to sit down with us at Gunderson's to pre-plan your funeral. Pre-planning allows you to make thoughtful decisions with a clear mind. Give us a call at Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services, Fort Dodge.
Take the worry out of winter with the Winter Weather Advisor on the Voice of Fort Dodge, AM 1400 KVFD. We'll keep you informed on hazardous driving conditions, delays, cancellations, and closings. The Winter Weather Advisor is brought to you by Superior Siding, experts at siding, roofing, windows, and gutters. Superior Siding, providing you with the service you deserve. For more information, find Superior Siding at superiorsidingwindows.com. Take the worry out of winter with the Winter Weather Advisor on the Voice of Fort Dodge, KVFD.
Michael Devine, the Doctor of Truth.
Does anyone have anything they'd like to confess?
At AM 1400 KVFD.
This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. I'm Michael Devine. Yes, I am the Doctor of Truth. This is the time of week we talk sports with Randy Kuhlman and Nevin Mulholland. But once again, Larry Liberal there, Mulholland, is not in the studio, Randy. What do we do with this guy?
I don't know.
Can't dock his pay, I'll tell you that. Oh, here fashionably late, he shows up. He shows up. We have no, that sign you just passed us on the air. Yes, we've started.
We live?
Yes, we're live.
Hello, America. We've just upgraded the show. The headliner has showed up.
The headliner has showed
Oh,
up.
my gosh.
All right, all these preliminary fights are out of the way. The champ is here.
Here we go.
The champ is here. I don't know. I really don't know. So there's so many things to talk about, kind of wrapping up the end of the year football and that sort of thing. And Steve Prohm is on an apology tour, and nobody's seen Matt Campbell.
He's out recruiting.
Yeah, I suppose, but he didn't have much to say about that bowl game, I'll tell you. And what can we say about the bowl games? I mean, did Wisconsin? I'm not a Badger fan. I'm not a Wisconsin fan.
They blew it.
But they got hosed. I'm sorry.
They did. You're right.
Yeah, they got hosed. And the same with Ohio. Believe me, I'm not an Ohio State fan. But they got hosed in the Clemson game. This officiating is terrible.
I agree with you.
The reviews of the plays are terrible. Well, we've reviewed it and we've decided to stand with the same decision. How does that work?
I don't know. There's a lot of questionable calls in a lot of these big games, and these are supposed to be some of the better crews around. But boy, I agree with you, Mike. I thought the officiating in a lot of big games was pretty shaky.
Without that silly call against Wisconsin, they're at 3rd and 8, and they make the play, offensive pass interference. It looked like a block to me. Could have gone either way, frankly.
Oh, that was a horrible call.
Horrible call. But without that silly play, Wisconsin wins the game, I think.
Well, they would have been in a position to keep driving the ball down and possibly win.
Well, yeah,
but that did cost them the game. Instead of a first down, it became 3rd and 26.
Yeah, or something like that.
Yeah. No, but I think, starting with the Hawkeyes, what a great way to finish the season, end up 10-3, and take it to
the Hawks really did.
Played extremely. I thought they played the best game of the season, and I thought Brian Ferentz had his best game in how he called the game, because he really kind of diversified his game plan and
Reggie Bush crying after that.
Yeah,
after that game. That was hard for me and Matt Leinart here to watch that all the way. USC's got to do something.
Well, USC, of course, they're a storied program, and I'm sure
they were. But we've talked about it before. Them and UCLA have fallen off a cliff here in these last several years. They're just not what they were.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And it was nice to take it to them, and I was glad for Nate Stanley. He had a good ball game and finished his career. I mean, it's pretty amazing that he finished his career with 3 bowl wins, 3-0 in bowl games. I mean, geez, that's hard to beat, Yes, so it was a great way. And then I thought it was, as I said in a couple of emails to my friend, I think Hayden was looking down from above on that game and put up 49 points. I mean, only Hayden can put up 49 points. Ferentz never could, but Hayden did, So it was a great finish for the Hawkeyes, and hopefully they can keep building on that.
But Reggie Bush after the game, Iowa is ranked 99th in total offense in the country. And they put up 49 on us, he said. He kept saying us. Reggie, you were in school a long time ago. I know you have an alliance, but...
I'm not sure he was ever in school, but...
he was there.
He was there.
But, for a while.
Just to qualify that, we did have a return kickoff. So we had a special teams touchdown, and we had a defensive interception touchdown.
We did.
So 14 out of those 49 points came from special teams and defense, but still... a great game for the Hawks, and
Iowa couldn't have played much better. I mean, it really couldn't. And I never dreamed that I would ever hear coming out of the announcer's mouth, or Joe Klatt, who's doing the color, he says, "I just don't think Southern Cal's got the speed to keep up with the Hawks." I go, What universe am I in? Yeah. Well, it was true, though. Exactly. We actually looked faster than Southern Cal. I mean, I was so impressed with the game that Iowa played. They really played well.
Yeah.
Southern Cal's defense is not very good, and it hasn't been very good all year. But I'm sold on their wide receivers, and I was on record saying these guys are big time, and this quarterback is not chopped liver. Frankly, their quarterback getting hurt certainly was helpful to Iowa winning the game. I still think they would have won, but it had nothing to do with Southern Cal's defensive effort.
No.
And the Hawks played a heck of a game. They looked great. I'm telling you, give Stanley time. You've got, just like any other a good quarterback, it's a whole different ball game. And they didn't lay a glove on Nate all day, I don't think.
You give him time, he's pretty tough.
It was Iowa top to bottom. I've never seen it. I sat there amazed by what I was looking at.
You know, a guy that made himself a lot of money in that game was Epinesa, because he had 2 sacks. He was all over the quarterback all day long. And the guy that was blocking him the whole game is a first-round draft choice.
Right.
I still have a question about him, though. Do you guys really think he's big enough to play big league ball?
Are you kidding me? He's 6'5", 280.
Yes, and he's fast enough too. By the way,
enough.
And he's really got good hands and feet. He will. They project him right now to go as the number 9th pick in the first round.
Really?
And you know who's number 10?
Who?
Wirfs.
Wirfs.
Wirfs. How does Iowa keep cranking out these number 1 picks, and then they can't? They don't even come close to winning the Big Ten West.
Yeah.
Maybe it goes back to your argument, huh?
Yeah, it could be.
Don't get him started.
I know,
please.
And I don't mean I was scared you'd think it, but it also goes to our argument. Iowa does a terrific job on developing these guys into pro players. I just don't think they are able to recruit enough depth of talent to compete with the Ohio State or Michigan.
Well, here's another slant on this, and I didn't know Espinosa was 280. I thought he was
he's big.
He's a big boy.
I after the Clemson game, I visited all the Clemson websites, and they're talking big and they're talking trash. But several of them said, this is what happens all the time with Big Ten teams. They do well in the conference, but when they get over here, they're in trouble. And this is just another example. God, I think
Clemson beat Ohio State by 6 points, for crying out loud.
Yeah, they did. But I really thought Ohio State was going to take him.
Well,
Clemson's got a great team. They have a great quarterback.
That's right.
That kid is ridiculous. I mean,
he's good. He's fast.
His hand on that ball looks like he's holding a baseball, for God's sake.
He's fast. That I didn't appreciate until watching that Ohio State game. This kid can go for a big kid. He can. Very surprising, his speed.
Yeah, he is 6'6" and, 225 or 30 or something, isn't he?
He's 220 probably, but, man, he can stride it out. He ran by a lot of Ohio State guys on that. What do you have, about a 60-yard touchdown run?
Big, long strides, too.
I never dreamed he'd pull away.
And he's a tough kid.
Yeah.
AM 1400 KVFD, good afternoon. We're talking sports here. What's the deal?
Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Afternoon.
So the Hawks, what a great bowl season. What a fitting tribute to two of the probably greatest Hawkeyes in modern Hawkeye history. The two men that were instrumental into building Hawkeye athletics into what it is today, with Bump Elliott and Hayden Fry. It was just an ongoing advertisement for the program watching the bowl game.
Couldn't agree with you more. Absolutely.
Yeah,
both
it was
great men.
Justice.
What do you think of the argument from some Clemson fans that their conference, their area of the country, is so much better than the Big Ten?
Well, in the ACC this year, you had Clemson, and then everyone else was a cellar dweller. I mean, Virginia got smoked, and they were the second-place team, weren't they?
Yes, right.
I mean, you put the Big Ten against the ACC in bowl games, and we're probably going to, when I say we, the Big Ten, we're probably going to win 80-90% of those matchups easily.
Well, he was talking, I think, about the southern part of the United States as well. Alabama, LSU.
He's really kind of bootstrapping himself in with the SEC.
Yeah, exactly.
When you talk about the schools that are paying their players, absolutely. Kirk runs a clean program, or about as clean as it gets. We all know there's funny stuff going on down there in the Southeast Juniors Conference.
That's a good way to put it.
Well, but I'm not too sure Ohio State's lily white.
Well,
no, I wouldn't claim that either.
What are you talking about? Just because somebody got his tattoos paid for?
Yeah.
Which one of the quarterbacks was that? That was Tyrone somebody or one.
Yeah.
I can't remember. He got a lot of expensive tattoos.
The Southeast Conference in their bowl games was 7-2, which was the best record of everybody. The Big Ten was 4-5. But here's the interesting thing about the Big Ten. Out of their 5 losses, 4 of them were by a total of 8 points.
Really?
Yeah.
What was the Big 12, by the way?
Big 12 was 1-5.
Yeah, Big 12 just got annihilated.
Yeah, and their 5 losses were by a total of 87 points.
Yeah, they
took it on the shorts, no question about that. But
those Big Ten games were really close. Those were great games to watch. Was the officiating the best? Probably not. I don't know that I would blame the losses on the officials, but the timing of those calls just really hurt those teams.
Well, that's another argument that we get from the South, that Big Ten football is boring. It's just smash mouth football, grinded up and down the field all day, and whoever wins by 3 points, well, that's a great victory. And the SEC and the ACC are saying, look at all our great passes.
Well, but here's the listen. But they're playing in the South. It's tough to run that spread offense week in and week out up north of the Mason-Dixon line because of the weather. Often, it gets trying to run that at Michigan or Wisconsin or Minnesota. Now we're the Big Ten's going to that, but it's difficult to consistently run that spread as the year goes on with the weather.
Well, and quite honestly, I think that the old axiom that the Big Ten is a grinded out conference is no longer the case. You look at the top teams. Ohio State threw the ball all over the place. Indiana threw it all over the place.
Wisconsin, really.
Wisconsin, well, they were more a running team.
They're more a running team, but
Minnesota,
they can throw it.
Minnesota throws the ball. The top teams in the Big Ten throw the ball a lot. And so I think that old axiom that we're just a grinded out conference anymore is I don't think that's the case at all.
Well, and I tend to think the Big Ten and Big 12 football is a little more realistic football because it matches up with the pro game a lot more. At this young age, when there's not as much strength and speed as there is in the NFL, you can let your quarterbacks be a little more unprotected. But you get to the NFL, and with the exception of 2 or 3 quarterbacks here or there, you got to protect your quarterbacks. You can't let them go out there and just get killed game after game like that. They're not going to last. And I think that's real football. So
I will say something for Stanley. When he got blindsided or hit hard, he just got up.
He's a big boy.
Nobody ran that quarterback sneak better than him. I'll say that.
He really could
That's
do it.
one of the great plays Iowa had all year.
Yeah, it really
it's
was.
good for 4. I wish they would have punched it in that one time. They ran about 3 or 4 in a row. It was
one time he got 8 yards, I think, did he?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, who else gets 8 yards on a quarterback sneak? I mean, that was amazing. And the announcers were just giddy as schoolgirls just watching that. And they mentioned that Iowa offense was flexing on that drive. Yeah. That was so much fun to watch.
Yeah,
flexing.
Absolutely.
All right.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%, though. Hey, what a great way to honor both Bump Elliott and Hayden Fry with a big win like that. And then the Hawks ended up doing the hokey pokey afterwards in the locker room in honor of Hayden Fry. So
that was cool.
It's great all the way around.
Yeah, I always remember Hayden Fry, they'd ask him before the game, Coach, what are you going to do offensively? And he says, well, boys, we're going to scratch for itches.
Yeah.
And Iowa definitely did that against USC. So
you bet.
He did, yeah. Hayden brought Iowa football back.
No doubt.
It was
the 10 years.
We've talked about it here before. It was pretty sad. I mean, Bob Cummings, geez.
The 10 years prior to Hayden, Iowa won 22 games in 10 years.
Yeah.
It was bad.
Yeah, I could always get Hawk tickets then, I tell you.
Yeah, that's right. We could get knothole tickets for $1.
Yeah. Hey, listen, we're going to have to talk Creighton basketball because that's the most important thing in the world, So thanks for your call. Call again.
Yep, thanks, guys.
All right. This is AM 1400, KVFD, the Voice Board. Before we talk Creighton basketball.
Sure.
Nebraska, Alabama. Did you guys get to see the game or not?
Nebraska, Alabama?
Yeah. You mean Michigan.
Or Michigan, I'm sorry, Michigan.
I did not see it.
I watched the game, yeah. Michigan played with Alabama for about 2.5 quarters, and then Alabama ended up taking over in the second half and dominated them.
Yeah, they killed them, didn't they?
Yeah, but it was pretty. Actually, Michigan led at halftime. So Michigan led, I think, 23-20 at halftime. So Michigan won the first half, but Alabama came out and I think they got a talking to by Nick Saban at halftime, and they came out a little bit more motivated and dominated the second half.
I saw something today in the years ago sports column in the Messenger or wherever it was that Michigan won the national championship in 1998 for the first time in 41 years. 41 years back of 1998, and I was amazed. I mean, all those games and that smash mouth with Ohio State and bowl games they went to, they won a national championship once.
Yeah, Bo Schembechler, he'd get in the Rose Bowl every other year, but he always lost. He always lost the Rose Bowl games.
I do remember that.
USC would always beat him.
Yeah, USC would.
Yeah.
With their great running back, O.J. Simpson.
Yeah. Just before we move to basketball, though, Iowa State and the Notre Dame game, it was a clunker for the Cyclones, unfortunately. But in these bowl games, oftentimes it comes down to the matchups, and I think they were overmatched in that game. They came in, they were a 7-5 team, and they had to play a 10-2 Notre Dame team, and they were overmatched, I think, and whereas you look at Iowa was 9-3, and they're playing an 8-4 USC team, a much more evenly ranked, teams playing each other matchup versus the Notre Dame thing. And I understand everybody was excited about playing Notre Dame and all of that, but sometimes you just get overmatched, and then you end up regretting that.
Be careful what you wish for.
Exactly.
And Notre Dame's defense is really good. And they were, I thought, a better team from top to bottom. They just were. I thought it was a bad matchup from the get-go for Iowa State. I don't think anybody appreciated how bad a matchup it may be. I mean, Notre Dame's good. They're real good. And to flip it around, the Hawks got the great draw because they get a nationally recognized program that's down.
Yeah.
Little down.
For
and
them,
so it
absolutely.
really plays well for the Hawks. And had Iowa State been able to play competitive, I don't even think the game was competitive. I got to be careful here, but had they made this into a close game, it could have been a real positive for them because they had a lot of eyes on them because it's Notre Dame.
Yeah,
they're playing.
Exactly. And it's in a game like that, you got to play a perfect game to beat a Notre Dame, and they started off with 2 fumbles in the first quarter, which it really put them behind the 8 ball, and so that's always tough. But, when you look at the Iowa State team, I mean, they do lose some good defensive linemen and some good offensive linemen. But other than that, they've got pretty much everybody back with a really good quarterback. They'll be tough next year, and they'll bounce back and be very, very competitive. They're getting better.
Actually,
and I know they had real high expectations this year.
Well, and they lost their best offensive lineman doesn't play in that bowl game.
That hurt them.
That hurts. Now we got to move everybody around.
Yeah.
And you don't want to make a big deal out of that, but it's a fact.
Yeah.
It is what it is, and it does hurt you.
So LSU at Clemson, who wins?
Oh, LSU, I think. I think LSU will win. It'll be a close game, but I think.
What is that game?
It's
13th.
It's on a Monday. It's a week from
January 13th.
A week from this coming Monday, I think it is.
And I love LSU.
You love LSU.
Yeah, I've been on them all year, and they don't let you down. So I mean, I think they're the real deal. And frankly, I thought Clemson got a little lucky to get by Ohio State.
Yeah,
you guys talked about the officiating. Well, there were some calls there. And let me just say this. The thing that bothers me about the officiating isn't the real-time call. It's the mistake, it seems like, is being made in the replay booth.
Yeah, half the time,
yeah.
Oh,
I thought on the Ohio State game, that in real time, I didn't think that was a catch where the Clemson receiver fumbled and Ohio State took it back for a touchdown. In slow motion, though, I thought it was clearly a catch. After I watched him, I said, he clearly possessed that ball and took a couple steps. Real time, it happened so quick. I go, no, I don't think so. But how the replay booths, boy, I just...
Well, that's another thing that's been happening all year, or the last couple of years. The guys in the replay booth blow it.
Right. Well, that's what I got. What really bothers me a little bit, because they really have no excuse.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, they've got that, you've got the announcers up there. You got Dean Blandino or somebody like him up there, and they're all saying, oh, no, they're going to overturn that, and they didn't.
And
or
really,
vice
do
versa.
they?
Yeah.
I don't know what the burden is of an overturn, I guess. It must be more than what they say, clear and convincing evidence or whatever. I don't.
Well, but LSU looks...
Yeah, we like this team better than the other team. So,
but LSU,
especially if you're in Texas.
Yeah, and LSU's got, of course, a great quarterback, Heisman Trophy winner, and great wide receivers. My gosh.
Listen, he better be taking those cats out to dinner because
no kidding.
In that game against Oklahoma, I know he went off and he was tremendous. The wide receivers, though, the plays they made on those balls, the coverage wasn't bad.
No, the coverage wasn't bad.
And they went up and got them. These guys are studs.
Yeah. And I think going back to the matchups again, Oklahoma was way overmatched.
Oh, they were.
And I quite honestly, I didn't think they deserved to be in the playoffs. I thought, and I know they had one loss and all that, but I mean, I think
Alabama.
Well, number one, I think either Alabama or Georgia was much better than Oklahoma.
It was.
And Georgia just dominated whoever they played in the bowl game. Baylor, they
Yeah.
dominated Baylor, who won they won. I guess did they tie for the Big They ended up losing the championship game.
But I thought they won the conference.
They won the
maybe
conference and
lost.
got beat in the championship game to Oklahoma. But
the Oklahoma beat them twice.
Yeah, that's true. You're right. You're right.
Georgia is one of those teams, again, we rarely see up here in the Midwest. But I watched the game the other night. They were a great football team. They really were.
Well, and they were missing about 8 starters. I mean, they had 3 starters out, and they had 5 guys that weren't playing.
Oklahoma. They missed a few guys, too.
But, yeah, they were missing some guys and still were pretty dominating. So
I guess I'm going to have to call down to Creighton and get one of those schedule posters myself.
I can't.
Because I don't know anybody that apparently has any pull with Creighton.
And this is going to be a collector's item. This could be our year. As soon as I say that, and I hate to say because we got to play Butler tomorrow at Indianapolis. But
is Butler good this year?
They're really
yeah.
good.
Okay.
They're ranked 11th in the country. They have one of the best defenses in the country. So but I'm really excited for the game. I'm sure I'll be probably let down.
Well, we always think that as sports fans. Oh, our team's going to lose. But then Iowa. I thought Southern Cal would beat Iowa. Wow.
I did too. I just figured that, being out there for all the wrong reasons. So good for Iowa.
All right. We're coming back. The news is next.
Michael Devine, Nevin Mulholland, and Randy Kuhlman talking sports at AM 1400 KVFD.
I was kind of hoping sports expert Representative Mike Sexton would have stayed here. He was on between 3 and 4, so he could have straightened us all out on sports. Anyway, the news is next, and we'll be back with Nevin Mulholland and Randy Kuhlman. This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge.
Connect to this radio station from all across the country. Take us to the gym, shopping. How about a road trip? Listen to us now on the free iHeartRadio app. You'll never miss a moment with your favorite radio station. Download the free iHeartRadio app and search for this station so we can go wherever you want us to.
What's in store this week at your local Staples?
Big deals that are kind of a big deal.
That is, if you consider saving $30 a big deal.
Yeah, I'd say that's a big deal.
Well, right now at Staples, a 10-ream case of True Red color printer paper is only $29.99. You save $30.
That's a crazy big deal.
See? I told you. All your office essentials at small prices every day, which is huge if you think about it.
Staples, where there's a whole lot more in store.
In store only, ends 1/4/20, valid on SKU 513096.
With your KVFD news update, I'm Rob Jones. The Fort Dodge Police Department has issued a statement regarding the investigation to the death last night on the 100 block of Avenue D. Around 10:20 last night, dispatch received a call of a possible physical assault between a male and female. Officers arrived on scene and found a male unresponsive in a grassy area outside the residence. Officers began administering medical treatment, but the male was pronounced dead at the scene. After investigating the incident, officers determined it was likely that the male had been ran over by a vehicle. The Iowa State Patrol was called in to assist in the investigation. Police are still working to determine the exact circumstances that led to the death. Currently, no charges have been filed stemming from the incident. The identity of the male has not been released as of yet, as family members are still being properly notified. Anyone with information on the incident is asked to contact the Fort Dodge Police Department. A man accused of committing a murder here in Fort Dodge in October was granted a competency hearing. 36-year-old Fort Dodge resident Joshua Pendleton, who is accused of the murder of Reverend Al Henderson, will undergo evaluation at the Iowa Medical and Classification Center in Oakdale to determine whether he is mentally competent. The hearing is scheduled for January 10th, and the court plans to rule on whether the claim of mental incompetency has enough probable cause to suspend the criminal proceedings. Pendleton is facing charges of first-degree murder and first-degree robbery after police say he killed Reverend Henderson October 2nd outside of the St. Paul Lutheran Church here in Fort Dodge. A house on 7th Avenue South here in Fort Dodge was damaged heavily by a fire yesterday evening. There were no injuries from the fire. The report of the fire came in just after 5 p.m. after neighbors saw smoke coming from the house. Firefighters arrived on scene and were able to get the fire under control. Fort Dodge Fire Chief Steve Hergenreiter said the living room and kitchen areas were gutted from heavy damages from the fire, and the remainder of the house suffered smoke and heat damage. The people who are renting the house were in the process of moving out and were not in the home at the time of the fire. Fire and police personnel were on the scene for around an hour. For KVFD from the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom, I'm Rob Jones.
Here's a look at how the markets closed today. March corn down a nickel to close at 386.5. May down a nickel at 393. July down 4 3/4 at 399.25. September down 4 3/4 at 398.25. January soybeans down 13 3/4 at 930.5. March down 14 3/4 at 941.5. May down 14 1/4 at 955.25. July down 13 1/4 cents at 967 3/4. March wheat down 5 3/4 at 554.5. Soybean meal down 450 a ton at 296.10. February live cattle down 105 at 124.72. April down 80 cents at 125.67. January feeder cattle down 130 at 143.35. March down 105 at 142.67. February lean hogs down $3 at 68.55. April down 285 at 75.15. I'm Dwayne Murley.
This is AM 1400, KVFD, the voice for Dodge 437. We'll be back talking sports in just a couple of minutes. First of all, in the weather forecast, there's snow in the weather forecast. We've had a little snow off and on most of the day and certainly into the afternoon. Overnight, the snow will continue. Our overnight low will be about 10 degrees with some wind chill factor temperature figured in there as well. It should be below zero, so be careful driving if you have to go out on the roads tonight. Tomorrow, sunny with a high of 34. On Sunday, it'll be sunny with a high of 31. Very windy on Sunday. On Monday, partly sunny with a high of 41. Tuesday, sunny with a high of 28 degrees. Wednesday, sunny with a high of 36. On Thursday, it'll be sunny with a high of 38. And right now, it's 33 degrees in Fort Dodge. Obituaries brought to you this hour by the historic Bruce Funeral Home at 923 First Avenue South here in Fort Dodge. You may contact the historic Bruce Funeral Home by calling 515-576-5117 or online at www.brucesfuneralhome.com. Wilma Erdman of Humboldt has passed away at the age of 95. She died at the Colonial Manor down in Amana. Wilma was a homemaker most of her life, and her visitation will be Monday, January 6th at the Faith United Methodist Church in Humboldt. Obituaries this hour brought to you by the historic Bruce Funeral Home at 923 First Avenue South, Fort Dodge. You may contact the historic Bruce Funeral Home by calling 515-576-5117 or online at www.brucefuneralhome.com. This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge, 439.
I'm Charles Payne, and this is the Fox Business Report.
The major averages falling after investors reacted to escalating tensions in the Middle East. Gary Kaltbaum of Kaltbaum Capital Management is not concerned.
Even in a day like today, I'm seeing some names breaking out to new yearly highs. You wouldn't think that would happen with oil spiking and things like that. So we remain bullish at this juncture, and we're open to change. But it looks like this is an event right now, a pretty big event. But I don't think it's going to change the playing field just yet.
Among the laggards today, financials, tech, and airline stocks, while energy companies gained the most as the price of oil rose. The Dow falling 234 points, NASDAQ down 71, S&P 500 down 23. And in a down market, shares of Tesla closing at record highs after the electric automaker reported better than expected deliveries for its most recent quarter, surpassing the low end of its sales goals for the year. That's your Fox Business Report. I'm Heather Rybarski, invested in you.
Okay, you know how it feels when you've saved enough for that long-awaited home edition? Now imagine an addition on that addition. Whoa. That's the feeling with Capital One, where a new savings account earns an interest rate 5 times the national average. That's right, 5 times, as represented by 5 times more singers. This is banking reimagined. Capital One, what's in your wallet?
Terms apply. Rate comparison based on FDIC national rate. Capital One N.A. member FDIC.
Ever wonder what to do with the hazardous materials around your home? The North Central Iowa Regional Solid Waste Agency can help. We'll take just about anything you find anywhere in your home, whether it's under the kitchen sink or in the garage, we'll take care of it. I'm talking light bulbs, batteries, oil, paint, fertilizers, poisons, and more. Just give us a call. We'll set up an appointment for you to drop off your hazardous materials. Our number's easy to remember, 576-5866. You can also find us online at ncirswa.org.
Hi, this is Stacy Weirda, broker owner of Neighborhood Realty. Are you thinking about selling your home but not sure who to list with? Well, I have an amazing team of agents with years of experience in 2 locations, all devoted to your real estate needs. Neighborhood Realty covers a vast market area, and that's not all. At Neighborhood Realty, we'll list it, we'll sell it, and you'll move on. Find our information online at neighborhood-realty.net and make sure to follow us on Facebook.
Michael Devine, Nevin Mulholland, and Randy Kuhlman talking sports at AM 1400 KVFD.
Well, I'm talking sports. I don't know what these two guys are doing. But of course, I'm leading the discussion on sports again today. I am the brain center of our sports show every Friday here in Fort Dodge, as you two guys I know are going to admit. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's all right.
Is that what they mean by artificial intelligence?
No, that's not what we had in mind at all there. No. All right. So we always have to talk Creighton basketball, of course, because Nevin is a fan and he's an alumnus and all that sort of thing. So I haven't, of course, a lot of us have been busy over the holidays. All of us have been busy over the holidays. And sometimes the games and the teams get lost in the shuffle. So where are we at with...
Shame on you. Well, here where we are, Creighton's 1-0 in the Big East and took out Marquette by 17 Wednesday in Omaha. Now, saying that, they held the nation's leading scorer, Marcus Howard, who, by the way, just has a field day generally in Omaha against the Jays, to 18 points. And the Jays looked really good, real good, to the point where they're getting me kind of excited. I think they've won 8 or 9 in a row now. And they're small, but they really play a fun brand of basketball. They they get up and go, and Tyshawn Alexander in that game, if you haven't watched him, now he's much better at home than he is on the road, but he guarded Howard, and he picked his pocket 6 times. He had 6 steals. He scored 21 points and had the 6 or 7 assists. You can't play much better than Tyshawn Alexander did. Saying that, we probably got as good a guard court as maybe most really good guard courts in the country. I don't want to say they're the best, but they're awful good. We got 3 guys that they're the real deal. So tomorrow, Butler, 11 o'clock in Indianapolis. Butler's rated number 11 in the country. They're really good. It'll be interesting to see how we stand up. They're big, too. So
I'm going to pile on to Nevin here, but I just did. I looked at the top 40 teams ranked from 1 to 40, and the SEC. The Big East has 9 teams in the
top 40.
Top 40. That leads all conferences. The Big Ten had 8, and then you drop down to 5 with the big Pac-12, 5 with the ACC, who's normally the strongest, and then you got the Big 12 at 4. So 9
and the Big East only has 10 teams.
Yeah,
a lot of these conferences have 14 or whatever.
I'm wondering which team it is. It's not.
I am too.
But
if I was to guess, I think it'd be Providence.
Providence is not. You're right. It's
who,
Providence.
By the way, has been playing real well in the last 2 weeks. Beat Texas and then just destroyed Georgetown.
Yeah.
So
it's a tough. Every game is going to be a battle in that league.
It's fun basketball too. It really is. I don't know. It just is. It's really, and I'm a little biased because I watch it all the time, but it's entertaining. And when you look at those stats that you have there, Randy, the ACC is noticeably weak this year, way down. And the Big 12 is way down.
Yeah, Big 12's down. At least right now, it looks that way. Baylor surprised everybody.
They're good.
They're ranked 6th, and the Big 12 looks like it's down a little bit. Kansas, of course, is ranked 3. So they've got 2 in the top 10, and then it really drops off after that. And then, the Big East. every game is going to be a battle in that league. And
it's going to be a lot of fun, really is.
There's a lot of parity this year in college basketball, I think, because you don't have that phenomenal Duke team or the phenomenal Kentucky team. And, even Michigan State was ranked number 1 going into the season. They've been disappointing so far this year. And
this could be the year of the mid-major. This could be the year of that team that,
Gonzaga looks awful good.
They are awful good, too, by the way. Now, that team, to me, they may stumble like every other number 1 team, but they are not going to play the schedule.
No.
Some of these other ones were playing. But you watch them play, you love their game. They are very balanced, and they're really a good-looking team.
Yeah, no question, and it's going to be every conference. I mean, is going to be it'll be a dogfight because Villanova's good, but they're not that great.
No,
so it
totally agree. And I agree. I don't see anybody that it's jumping off the page as, hey, this team's the team to beat or this team's great. A lot of parity. And it'll be interesting to see what happens with the Hawks tomorrow. This is a pretty good Penn State team, and they're a big team. I would think they can match up with Garza, who, by the way, I was just reading an article today, is actually being mentioned as the player of the year in the country.
Is that right?
Yeah, he's actually getting
attention
because he might be the best, or at least the leading big man scorer right now in the country.
Yeah. It's interesting. Iowa's ranked 23. Penn State's ranked 21. They're 11-2. But Iowa's lucky because they don't have to go to Happy Valley. They're playing it at the Palestra in Philadelphia.
Right.
And I say that because I always feel like teams that have to travel to Happy Valley are at a real disadvantage because it's not an easy trip to get there.
Well, but then once you're there, nobody's there, though.
Yeah, that's right.
It's like a scrimmage.
Yeah,
they
you're
really
right.
Now maybe they're following their team this year, but I've watched a number of Iowa Penn State games. It's horrible.
Yeah,
it's just a dead gym.
Yeah, I mean, kudos to that coach there to get some quality talent when you figure that, it's kind of embarrassing to bring a recruit in there and their place holds 15,000 or so and they average about 7,000 or less a game. I mean, it's empty.
He's got a bunch of Philly kids on that Penn State team too. So that even though Fran also is from Philadelphia,
right.
Yeah, he'll have a bit of a following. I think it's kind of cool they're playing there.
Yeah, it is. It's a neat place. I've been there one time, and it's really a cool.
Is it? I've never been there.
It's in the same mold as a Hinkle Field House, in Indianapolis, but. It's really a neat place. And then, of course, the Cyclones are at TCU on Saturday, and they're hoping they can bounce back after a really horrible defeat the other night on New Year's Eve. But
well, it should not come as any surprise that team's going to go the way Halliburton goes.
Right.
And when Halliburton doesn't play, oh my, look out! I mean, really, they just don't have the scoring and Halliburton's everything to that team. He just does it all. He handles the ball, he sets up the other players, and he scores, and he defends. He'll get a number of steals.
Yeah, he's a first-round draft pick. From what I've seen this year, but I haven't seen. I didn't get to see that game. I was I was a little surprised because I thought they would be getting a lot more out of that Condit kid right now at center. Because I always thought this guy was a 6'10" athlete and would continue to develop his skills, but he just doesn't seem to be coming on right now yet. So it's still early, and the Cyclones could gel. A lot of people are down on Prohm right now.
Why? Because that one loss?
That one loss.
Well, but I'll tell you, it's basketball teams can gel at one time. All of a sudden, you have a 5 or 6 game winning streak. Next thing you know, you're back in things.
But going back to Condit, Iowa State does not feature the 5. I mean, they don't run anything for them. They don't even pick and roll with them. It seems like they just kind of clear the 4 or 5 out and let these guys go to work. But that 5, there's not much, entering the ball to the post on the block type thing or pick and rolling. I get if you don't do one, you do the other.
Yeah.
But I don't see him do much of either.
No, I agree. That's been the criticism that people have had of Prohm is that, he doesn't run a lot of sets. He doesn't. It's really kind of a let's spread the court, drive and dish, and then fast break, pull up, take the three, and they take a lot of threes. And when they're not making them, they struggle, and they've struggled shooting threes this year. And when that's your offense, you're gonna struggle.
Well, I think some of these transfers have been disappointing, frankly, for them. I think they were expecting a lot more out of these guards they got.
Yeah.
And they struggle to score consistently, to say the least.
I want to go back to everybody's mad at Prohm because it seems to be the case that all of a sudden the Iowa State Cyclones or the fan base is a little disappointed in Steve Prohm. I mean, they did have a bad outing. That looked pretty bad. It really did. But come on. That happens.
Well,
it does. You're
it's
right.
just not that because, listen,
they got clobbered by Iowa too, and that's the other part.
That's
well, this
never
could
good.
be a tough year for them. But drill down a little bit. If he pulls in, he's recruiting, and he's recruiting at an incredibly high level. They got helps on the way. The cavalry is coming, starting with Xavier Foster, if he's as good as everybody claims he is.
Yeah.
I mean, that was quite a coup for Iowa State.
Yep.
And they're in on a lot of other 4 and 5 stars, guys that everybody in the country's after. And so look out. I mean,
he's a recruiter.
He is a recruiter.
Where's Foster from?
Oskaloosa. But here's the thing.
Oh, they got that kid.
Yeah,
they did.
Here's the thing that I think's happened to Iowa State, and it's kind of an interesting dynamic with the one and done stuff going on now. But when you get kids that are really good, and they're one and doneers, in the long run, that could hurt your program, because you don't have guys coming up that are your juniors and seniors in your program. Creighton is a good example. These guys now what are they? They're juniors and seniors.
Juniors, no seniors.
Okay.
But the point is, we've been down that one and done deal. When you're not a Kentucky, when you're not a Duke, where you're backfilling with 5 stars and are able to immediately recover, when you're a Creighton or an Iowa State and you get a one or doneer, it kills you because it's not part of the plan. When we lost Justin Patton, we're still trying to recover from not having a 5. When we lost Kyrie Thomas, both of those guys were unanticipated.
I and all of us take a little grief every now and then for not talking about the UNI Panthers.
Yeah.
And we should. We should. As a matter of fact, I just got a program sheet from one of my fellow workers here talking about the UNI game on tonight. And I'm embarrassed to say I don't know who they're playing.
UNI's playing tonight?
Apparently.
They just played 2 nights ago against got beat by
Illinois State, which, frankly, up to that point, UNI was looking terrific and like a top 25 team and probably underrated. But then to get beat by Illinois State, who was 4-7.
I'm sorry. 1-4 is tomorrow, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Game's going to be on January the 4th.
Yeah, they're playing Bradley tomorrow, aren't they, I think?
It doesn't say.
Either they or Drake are. One of them's got Bradley. Or did Drake already get beat by Bradley?
Yeah, they've already got. Who's
picked to win the conference, I think.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah,
so
Bradley
they're back a little bit. They went down the tube.
Yeah. That's a big game tomorrow. I'd love to go over and see that game, quite honestly. It's a fun place to watch in Cedar Falls. And Bradley is picked to win it, and UNI is the surprise of the league, and that'll be – and that's at Cedar Falls. That'll be a great game.
I think UNI is going to make the NCAAs. I really like them.
You think so?
I do, but of course you got to either win the tournament or the conference.
Yeah.
And the conference is no guarantee. So, I mean, I really was surprised by the loss to Illinois State. I thought highly of UNI from what I had seen of them and the teams that they had either beat or been beaten by. Pretty good resume.
Hate to lose from anybody from Illinois, don't you, Randy?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
But, the UNI Panthers are having another banner year. I've always been kind of a fan of UNI.
Well, they had a tough year last year. They had a surprisingly bad year last year.
They did.
But Jacobson's a heck of a coach. And
couple of years, Randy, they've been down.
Yeah, you're right.
It's just,
but he's
Farley's been struggling a little bit in football too.
Not this year.
He had a good team this year.
But
no,
a couple of years,
he was. But this year, I
Yeah.
thought they basically exceeded expectations.
Yeah, they did.
But it's great to go to a a basketball game or a wrestling meet at the UNI. What do they even call it? What is their auditorium? I don't know.
McLeod Center.
The McLeod Center, yeah.
But it's like a big high school gym, you just love it.
It's better than that.
Yeah.
But I get what you're saying, but it's all down in the ground.
Yeah.
Basically,
Yep.
and it's in the
It's a bowl.
It's a good.
Not a bad seat in the house.
It's really hard to play in.
That
when
was
they-
the point I was trying to get to. That there's not a bad seat.
And when they fill that place up, it's loud.
Yeah.
Real loud.
And the football field's great too, you know.
Oh yeah, great place to watch football. No
It's in
question.
a dome as well, you know.
Yeah. No, I it'll be fun to see you and I have. Hopefully they'll have a great year, and I think the Bulldogs are surprising people too. I think they're going to be better than a lot of people thought. So the Drake Bulldogs, and so it'll be and for all of my men's basketball friends, of which I am one, but the
Here
Drake
we
women,
go.
the Drake women are playing UNI's women tonight, and they're the two. Missouri State's awful good in women's basketball too in the Valley, but both UNI and Drake this year beat Iowa State's women.
Did you see?
And they're good. They're playing tonight in Des Moines.
Women's sports is coming around. Did you realize, and I just read this in the paper this morning, Humboldt has 17 girls out for wrestling.
Do they really?
17 girls.
I did realize that.
Yeah.
I read the same article you did, but I
thought that was great for a town of 4,000 or 5,000 to have
that was
many kids out.
17 girls. I go, wow.
Wow, that's what I thought.
That's more.
I
gotta
can't-
be careful. It's probably bigger than the St. Edmunds boys wrestling team.
Probably is.
Yeah.
St. Edmund boys, they've had trouble recruiting wrestlers over there, you know.
Yeah.
And I can't think of St. Edmund wrestlers without thinking of
Well,
that.
we're a lot smaller school than Humboldt, but still.
Are you that far, much far? How many
Yeah.
graduates did you have last year? Do you remember?
Well, it'd be less than 50. I'd
Oh,
say.
really?
Yeah.
Wow.
You know,
So people are gonna be hitting you for
Humboldt
donations
is
pretty
2A, and I think St. Ed's is A. Yeah, I mean,
Just A.
Yeah, just A, just single A, and they're the smallest, by far and away, the smallest school in the North Central Conference.
Yeah.
I wish I would have gone
I'm
over.
going to 3A now.
Yeah, I'll go to
Yeah.
3A now.
And
And they're doing all right,
Humboldt
too.
might be, is Humboldt 2 or 3A, Randy?
Humboldt, they're right on the border, so they kind of flip-flop back and forth between 3 and 2A.
Yeah.
But, here's the surprising. Clear Lake is 2A. And they
Clear
used to
Lake,
yeah.
really?
Yeah, but, Webster City's 3A and Algona's 3A.
Iowa Falls.
Iowa Falls.
What is that?
I think they're 2A.
2A? Okay.
But
Clear Lake, I'm surprised.
I am too.
Because a lot of people
yeah.
have homes
It used to
there.
be 3A.
They used to be
Very
3A.
strong. I mean,
used to be one of the bigger schools in the
Yeah.
conference.
Yeah.
And so, that's always surprising. And they're good. Clear Lake's got good men's and boys and girls teams this year.
Yeah.
They're tough.
I'm sorry that I missed going to the UNI Dome the last time St. Edmunds football team was there then because they.
I was there. That was fun.
No, I was there. That was fun.
A lot of fun.
They got beat by Xavier, didn't they?
Not Xavier. It was Regina.
Regina.
I was City.
That's right. That's
we
right.
played them pretty competitively,
Yeah, we did.
but that Regina, whew, that's a whole nother ball game, man.
Yeah, I think so.
They had more coaches than we had members of our team.
Now you know how I felt coaching little kid flag
know it.
football. I was with the Duncombe Jets, and we'd go
Yeah.
play St. Edmunds. My God, I'm over on the sideline with my kids, and there's a whole contingent over there, coaches with
Same
clipboards.
thing. We counted 13 coaches on the Regina sideline.
Most
the
of them
day
played
we
for Iowa.
Yeah, I mean, these guys are all, yes.
Eddie Hinkle, Marv Cook was the head coach. Eddie Hinkle and others, yeah.
For God's sake, there were I don't know how many women over there on the sideline with stadium blankets and lawn chairs. And if St. Edmund did anything, a burst of applause came from that side of the field. And on the other side of the field where the Duncan kids were is me and Tom Walters going, yeah, okay. This is good. This
I
is
was
good.
there. I had the Field Haver Flyers. Or whatever.
You had the Field Haver Flyers.
Yeah.
No, I was the Duncombe Jets coach for 4 years, I think. I hope I
Yeah.
didn't scar too many of them. But I probably did. So you guys are going with LSU all the way.
What's the
against Clemson.
spread? It's 5 something, right?
Is it
I
5
can't
or
tell you.
5 or
It's
7?
just hard
I
for
can't
me to
remember.
bet against LSU right now.
Yeah.
But if anybody can pull this off, it's Dabo Sweeney. I mean, I have the utmost respect for this guy. The
Yeah.
game beating Ohio State after they were getting rolled in that game.
Mm-hmm.
Ohio State left so many points on the field in the first half.
Yeah.
And to hang in there and make
kick
the
field goals.
adjustments that they made and come out, I utmost respect for Dabo.
Dabo gives me a headache. Anyway, thanks, guys. 5 o'clock in the afternoon, KVFD, Fort Dodge, Iowa.
This is Gary Rima, the voice of the UNI Panthers, and you can listen to exciting Panther sports right here on the voice of Fort Dodge, AM 1400, KVFD.
with a Fox News alert. His reign of terror is over. I'm Lisa Lacera. That from President Trump one day after a drone strike killed Iranian General Qasem Soleimani near the airport in Baghdad.
Soleimani was plotting imminent and sinister attacks on American diplomats and military personnel, but we caught him in the act and terminated him.
And saying the strike sends a message.
Under my leadership, America's policy is unambiguous to terrorists who harm or intend to harm any American. We will find you. We will eliminate you. We will always protect our diplomats, service members, all Americans, and our allies.
Pentagon sending nearly 3,000 more troops to the Middle East in the aftermath of the killing. The president now in Miami at an Evangelicals for Trump event, again saying Soleimani was planning a major attack.
He was plotting attacks against Americans, but now we've ensured that his atrocities have been stopped for good. They are stopped for good.
And he thanked the military for their actions. Reaction beginning to filter in.
The chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, Adam Schiff.
I have concerns that we are on a pathway where a U.S. action is met by an Iranian reaction, which is met by a U.S. reaction, with both the United States and Iran contemplating further potential military action.
Now, most of Congress remains out of town until next week, but some Senate staffers, including those from the Foreign Relations Committee, they got briefed today, and Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell says he anticipates all senators will be getting a classified briefing at some point next week.
Fox's Mark Meredith in Washington. On Wall Street, stocks fell broadly and oil prices rose after the strike on Soleimani. The Dow lost 233, the NASDAQ off 71. America's listening to Fox News.
Hi, I'm Jay Farner, CEO of Quicken Loans, America's largest mortgage lender. Let's talk credit card debt for a minute. If you feel you're carrying too much of it, you're not alone. The average household in the U.S. carries over $8,000 in credit card debt. Ready for some good news? With a cash-out refinance from Quicken Loans, you can quickly and easily put some of the equity in your home to good use by paying off a lot of that high-interest credit card debt. A great way to take cash out is with our 30-year fixed-rate mortgage. The rate today on our 30